with a microphone, that would help. Notice is hereby given of the regular meeting of the Board of Education of the Town of Westfield in the County of Union, New Jersey at 6:35 p.m. on the evening of Tuesday, August 27th, 2024 in Cafeteria B of Westfield High School, 550 Dorian Road, Westfield, New Jersey. The Board will move immediately into private session to discuss matters rendered confidential by state and federal law, including personnel matters. The public portion of the meeting will resume at 7. The purpose of the meeting is to transact the regular business of the Board and to transact any other business to come properly before the Board. This is to advise the general public and to instruct that it be recorded in the minutes that in compliance with Chapter 231 of the Public Laws of 1975, entitled the Open Public Meetings Act, the Westfield School Board on Thursday, July 18th, 2024, and Thursday, August 22nd, 2024, caused to be posted at the office of the Board of Education, located at 302 Elm Street, Westfield, New Jersey, and delivered to the Westfield Leader, the Star Ledger, the Westfield Library, Town Clerk of Westfield, Tap into Westfield, and Patch.com, a meeting notice setting forth the time, date, and location of the meeting. Patty, may we have a roll call, please?
Rob Bonaccio.
Here.
Kent Diamonds.
Here.
Brendan Galligan.
Here.
Charles Gelinas.
Here.
Layla Morelli.
Here.
Sonal Patel.
Here.
Kristen Sonic Schmeltz.
Here.
Julie Steinberg.
Here.
Mary Wickens.
Kent, would you mind leading us in a flag salute, please? I ask the Board to approve the following resolution. Resolved that the Board of Education move into private session for the purpose of discussing matters rendered confidential by state and federal law, including personnel matters, and be it further resolved that any discussion held by the Board which need not remain confidential, and the results of the discussion will be made public as soon as practicable. May I have a motion, please? Second? Let's do a vote. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? We're in private session. All right, we're back from executive session. We're going to start with some announcements. Kent, any announcements?
Yes. The Westfield Public School District is seeking caring individuals to assist our classroom teachers, working with individual students or small groups of students who have an individualized education program or an IEP. Additional stipend opportunities are available. To apply to be a special education paraprofessional, please visit the district website at www.westfieldnjk12.org and click on the Jobs quick link in the upper right-hand corner of the screen. Secondly, in its 22nd year, the Extended School Year program assists students with individualized educational plans in preventing skill regression and preparing for the upcoming school year. The ESY program operated from July 2nd through August 7th and served approximately 126 students in preschool through grade 12. The instructional day was structured with a focus on maintaining language arts and math skills, along with the students' IEP goals. The schedule allowed for opportunities to learn and build on important social, emotional skills as well. This year, players and coaches of the Westfield High School girls and boys basketball teams volunteered their time to provide some physical activity for the younger students. Thank you.
Brendan?
Yep. As the new school year begins, we look forward to recognizing and raising awareness of the many cultural, historical, and religious traditions of our diverse school community, beginning with National Hispanic Heritage Month from September 15th through October, which celebrates the rich history of the American Latino community.
Kristen?
All 6 elementary schools in Westfield Public School District have received gold level certification under the New Jersey Safe Routes to School Recognition program, which applauds school districts for implementing programs and events to create safer environments for walking and bicycling in their communities. Among the events and programs that contributed to the 3-year gold certification by SRTS, I skipped that, but I shouldn't have. So New Jersey's Safe Routes to School Recognition is SRTS, sorry about that, is long-standing walk and bike to school in October, organized by Westfield Breaks, which is bikers, runners, and kids are entitled to safety, and elementary school parent organizations, PTOs. Additionally, as part of the certification process, baseline data was collected to determine what modes of transportation were used by students to and from school. While the Board of Education adopted a district policy to support walking and bicycling as a way to promote student wellness, pedestrian safety assemblies also were held for all second graders with important safety demonstrations on how to cross an intersection safely. You can read more about this important recognition on the news section of the district and school websites. Thank you.
CJ?
All 10 schools in the Westfield Public School District have achieved bronze level certification under the Sustainable Jersey for Schools program, recognizing the important role the Westfield Public School District plays in promoting sustainable practices and educating students to be responsible environmental stewards. The majority of points earned towards certification focused on district efforts to put digital and curricular systems in place to promote sustainable practices. The full article about this recognition is posted on the news section of the district and school websites.
Julie?
Congratulations to Westfield High School track and field cross-country coach Christopher Tefaleski, who received national recognition for the second time for his leadership and performance during the 2023-2024 school year. Coach Tafaleski was selected by the U.S. Track and Field and Cross Country Coaches Association as the 2024 Boys High School Track and Field Coach of the Year for the state of New Jersey. Last year, the national organization also named him Cross Country Coach of the Year for New Jersey. Also, 22 Westfield students in grades K through 5 took part in the Multilingual Learners Summer Experience, a 2-week summer camp that provides meaningful enrichment activities to help students continue their English language acquisition. This year's ML program ran from July 8th through 19th at Wilson Elementary School and welcomed students whose native languages include Chinese, Hebrew, Portuguese, Russian, Spanish, and Ukrainian.
Layla?
Looking to earn some extra money while enjoying time spent with our elementary students during their lunch periods? The Westfield Public School District is hiring lunch aides to work 90 minutes a day in our elementary schools. The salary is $30 a day. To apply, visit the district website at www.westfieldnjk12.org and click on the Jobs quick link in the upper right corner of the screen. Homeroom and class schedules will be released this week. As previously communicated, please remember to complete the electronic back-to-school packet in Genesis. Once you have submitted the packet, you will be able to access your child's homeroom and/or schedule.
I actually have a couple. District administrators and educators look forward to welcoming parents to Back to School Night next month. Back to School Nights for the intermediate schools will be held on Thursday, September 12th, for the elementary schools on Thursday, September 19th, for the high school on Thursday, September 26th, and for Lincoln School on Tuesday, October 1st. Additional information has been or will be shared by building principals. Second one, the Parent Teacher Council Special Education Committee is hosting its annual back-to-school meeting on Tuesday, September 10th, beginning at 7 p.m. at Edison Intermediate School. Assistant Superintendent for Pupil Services, Dr. Michael Weissman, and Special Education Supervisors Alex Linden and Kathleen Neshawat will join the PTC Special Education Committee in a presentation and roundtable discussion with the latest updates and events for the special education community.
The next regular public meeting of the Board of Education will be on Tuesday, September 17th in Cafeteria B at Westfield High School, beginning at 7 p.m. The meeting will be live streamed via the district YouTube channel, which viewers can access on the board tab on the district website. The complete agenda will be available on Friday, September 13th. The board also will hold a special meeting for a board retreat tomorrow, Wednesday, August 28th at 5 p.m. The meeting will be held in the first floor conference room at 302 Elm Street. Special board meetings at which no formal action is taken are open to the public but are not recorded or live streamed.
I think that's it. We'll now move to the report by District Administration. Dr. Gonzalez.
Yes, before we move into our presentation of our annual New Jersey Graduate Proficiency Assessment, I just want to provide some highlights about what took place over the summer in preparation for the new school year, recognizing that we will be welcoming back our staff on September 3rd and our students on September 5th. We've been spending the majority of this summer preparing not only our classrooms and our buildings, but also the personnel and the curriculum that will be prepared for our students when they arrive. This week in particular, we've had our new Staff Institute kick off with about 30 staff members joining us both today and tomorrow, taking part in a number of activities to familiarize themselves with the district, with their responsibilities, with the culture, as well as the protocols and the processes and policies associated with the district. In addition, we have a number of students who assist our maintenance and grounds and custodial team as they prepare all of our schools. If you look through all of our schools at the start of the summer compared to now, it is amazing to see the transformation as classrooms are upended and emptied into the hallways. They then turn into these amazing new spaces to welcome students, and all of that is taking place up until the last minute. So I want to thank all of our summer help. I want to thank all of our custodial and maintenance workers who have been working nonstop to prepare for the return of our students and staff. And also, I would like to thank our new grounds people. So this year, we were fortunate to have had the support of the community and the Board of Education to add 2 additional grounds members of our custodial maintenance team to pretty much double the amount of personnel that we have. And if you haven't seen our fields and our landscaping look as good as it has in the past, you now understand why. So it is greatly appreciated, and the evidence of their impact is seen each and every day. In addition to that regular maintenance and summer work that takes place, we also have a number of projects that had continued throughout the summer, including the continuation of Phase 2 of the Roosevelt Facade Project. You'll notice that the scaffolding in the front of the building has now transitioned to the side and the back, allowing us to continue the work to prepare the facade and shore up the roof of that facility. All along the way, we're ensuring that our classrooms are safe, that our staff and our students are safe, but also that the work continues with minimal disruption to the school day. Our tech education classrooms at all of our schools or secondary schools at Roosevelt and the high school have been getting a refresh with paint and furniture in store at Roosevelt, as well as paint and refresh here at the high school. We also have first grade classroom refreshes taking place with paint and new furniture for staff and students throughout every single first grade. Again, all of that has been accomplished through budgeted maintenance and capital reserve projects. So again, I just want to point to all the work that is coming through, all of the conversations that took place in the spring is now coming to reality for our students the moment they walk into the classroom. We also have, throughout the district, we have our 2 new special education programs being introduced, one at Roosevelt and one at Edison, and both of those programs also experience complete classroom refreshes with furniture, flooring, as well as paint in order to welcome those programs into each of those schools. So we're very excited to see all of these conversations turn into realities, and certainly excited to see our students and staff in those classrooms. In addition, in preparation for the new school year, we're also implementing in all of our schools a new visitor management system. So in Franklin and McKinley last year, we piloted a new system, and it's a system that allows any visitors into the schools to have their credentials vetted prior to walking into the school. That system makes use of iPad technology and an outdoor kiosk that is outdoor rated to be able to withstand the heat as well as the elements, rain and snow, so that our staff have the ability to make sure that anyone who walks into our buildings are properly vetted and receive the proper identification as they're walking around. All of those systems have been installed, and the training has taken place in all of our schools, and we're excited again to see those launch in September. In addition to the physical changes and what you see around, you'll also notice that our digital presence has started to evolve as well. So we've refreshed all of our district and school logos throughout the districts to create a more unified and consistent look through our print and digital representation of our schools and district. But we've also upgraded our athletics website to be more user-friendly and consistent with the district and school websites. All of that is readily apparent if you visit our websites. You'll be able to see at the school level through the school drop-down. You'll see all of the refreshes of the school logos and the main landing pages, as well as the new athletics website through that school drop-down menu. That's a lot, and that's just the beginning. So I do want to just leave more room for reports throughout the course of the year, but I do want to also welcome James Furr. He's going to be our new student rep who will be joining us in September. I will be meeting with him on Thursday to orient him to the work of the Board of Education in our meetings, but also look forward to his reports and his participation on this dais. And last but not least, as we look forward to the school year ahead, be sure to stay tuned to our board meetings as well as all of our district communication regarding our upcoming referendum scheduled for April of this coming school year, 2025, as well as continued progress and updates regarding our strategic plan as we enter year 2 for this coming school year. So a lot of work has taken place, a lot more on the horizon, but I'm excited by all that I've seen and certainly look forward to continuing updates during our board meetings. At this time, that concludes my report, but I'd like to welcome Dr. Matthew Bolton, our Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum Instruction and Assessment, to provide his annual update. and report of the New Jersey Graduate Proficiency Assessment, as well as our Access for L's assessment results. Dr. Bolton.
Thank you, Dr. Gonzalez. Thank you for everyone allowing me to present this evening. You're going to hear a little bit about the NJGPA scores from last year. That's the class of 2025, and our Access for L's. Access hasn't gotten hip to the lingo. We call our students MLs now, multilingual learners. Access sticks with the L's moniker, so that's English language learning students. So just to begin, a little bit of information about the Graduation Proficiency Assessment, which most of you have heard from me before. This is a state-required assessment for all students in 11th grade. This is a mandatory assessment to gauge students' readiness for graduation. Cut scores were established by the New Jersey State Board of Education at a scale score of 725. So just keep that notion of scale score in mind, and cut scores, we'll reference it again later on in the presentation. If you remember, probably about a year and a half ago, there was some debate at the state level with regard to what the cut score should be. It was 750, and then it was moved to 725. So when I do reference later on in the presentation scores from 2022, you'll see a pretty significant difference when those cut scores were 750 versus 725. NJGPA is designed to measure students' readiness for graduation in English language arts and mathematics. We measure students in English language arts at grade 10 standards, and mathematics is aligned to the Algebra 1 and geometry standards. So something interesting about the NJGPA is that it's an assessment that's given to our students once when they're in 11th grade. So one group of students gets one test in 11th grade. So we don't really have an opportunity to dig in like we typically do and do a cohort analysis and really monitor student performance against this assessment as they progress along in the grades, like you'll hear in October when we report out on the NJSLA. Same assessment over the course of years, same kids. So when we do look at the results, just keep that in mind, that any comparison from year to year are completely different groups of kids. So you'll probably see a little bit of variability in the scores, nothing tremendous, but a little bit. So again, more about the NJGPA. Students are required to take the assessment, and they are required to meet that cut score of 725. If they do not, they have lots of opportunities to meet graduation proficiency. So if they don't meet the cut score that first time taking it in March of their 11th grade year, then students are permitted to retake the assessment in October of the following year. So any student that did not meet that benchmark, they then retake the assessment. That's the first step in the process if you didn't meet the benchmark. The second part of that process is a second pathway. So the first pathway is reach a 725 on the test. The second pathway is meet a designated cut score on an alternative test, such as ACT, Accuplacer, PSAT, or the SAT. So there are absolutely students who may not have met the mark on the NJGPA in March, but then later on throughout the year take the SAT, reach that threshold, which I can share with you as well, the cut scores for those different subtests. And then they've met graduation proficiency, and we can check them off the list of meeting that requirement. If students fail to meet those benchmarks, then that second pathway, we move on to a third pathway, which is a portfolio assessment. After multiple assessments and completing one of the alternative second pathways, typically there aren't many students who require a portfolio assessment, but for those that do, I think last year we had like 22 students that required that, and every single one of them met graduation proficiency through the portfolio assessment, and that's primarily due to the level of support that our teachers and our administrators provide to them at Westfield High School. It's individualized support, so each student is aligned with a faculty member. They're given constructed tasks that are aligned to the standards in the specific discipline, and they work with the faculty member in demonstrating their understanding, and then we submit those to the state to demonstrate compliance, and then the students have met graduation proficiency. Okay, so just a real quick overview of some of the numbers. So 2023-24, English language arts, we did fantastic. We met graduation proficiency at 96.9%. That's about 458 students total out of about 462 students last year. So our participation rate is obviously very high. Students know that they need to take this test. Another little asterisk is that before students can move on to a second pathway, they have to sit for the assessment. So they can't just take the SAT and say, I met the graduation requirement. They have to first sit for the NJGPA, and that's why we have a participation rate of about 99.3%. Mathematics, we met graduation proficiency at 85.8%. We have 14.2%, or 65 students who still need to meet graduation proficiency. As scores in ACT, SAT start rolling in, that number is going to diminish. And then as students sit, all of those students will sit for the graduation proficiency in October. I believe it begins October 7th and takes place through October 7th through the 11th. So you can look at these numbers, and again, they're fairly stable. You see some variation from year to year, again, different cohort of students. What you could also observe by looking at these numbers quickly is that it's not just a Westfield thing. There's a state trend that the mathematics test is more challenging for the students, and that's why you see the performance that you do. So again, subgroup comparisons. These are different subgroups that are represented in our school district. If you don't see a subgroup that's represented up there, it's because their N is under 10. That just means that we have to redact any subgroup that's under the number of 10. And some of those subgroups that are represented there are right at that threshold. So it plays some tricky games, especially when you're reporting statistics and percentages. So ELA subgroup comparison, all subgroups did excellent in ELA. Math subgroup comparison, again, you see that we still have subgroups that are having some challenges and some areas that we need to do some work. So what we do in these specific instances is that we dive deeper into these particular subgroups, find out exactly who these students are, and that's the beauty of having such a small number of students who did not meet graduation proficiency, is that we can identify individuals, find out exactly who they are, where they are, what their program is, and what level of supports they need. I'll talk a little bit more about the supports that we provide to these students who still need to meet graduation proficiency. Something that's interesting, though, when you do dive a little bit deeper into some of these subgroups, as I have done, you start to see that in each of these subgroups, a couple of things. One, the subgroup of special education and subgroups of race are not discrete. They overlap. So you're looking at multiple students being reported twice in a subgroup. So you might be Hispanic, but also be special education. The other thing that's really interesting is when you look at the scaled mean score, so we're going back to scaled score, that's 725, right? When you look at the distribution of these scores within these subgroups, our scale mean score for each one of these subgroups is higher than the 725. So you can deduce what you want from that, but I've deduced, and I've looked at all of the numbers in each individual student, that the way in which the numbers spread, the variance is not great. They're condensed around that bell-shaped curve, which means there are a large number of students who are right there ready to pass this test the second time they take it. So we're close with lots of students. And that's a good thing for our students and a good thing for us. So again, the Liz's, Liz Riley and Liz D'Alessandro, they dive right into these test scores as soon as they're published. So areas of strength, you can see we have clear areas of strength in levels of analysis and how authors analyze a series of ideas. We have areas of strength in comparison and contrast with primary and secondary sources, and the writing and knowledge research simulation is a strength. Area support, obviously, even though we did incredibly well in language arts, we still have areas that we need to continue to grow. And again, it's analyzing complex characters with multiple conflicting motivations, and determining an author's point of view in a text and analyzing how authors use rhetoric to advance that point of view. So addressing concerns, I'll get to addressing concerns when I get to both subjects because they're very similar. So mathematics, again, areas of strength, polynomial operations, interpreting, using, creating equivalent algebraic expressions, graphing functions, applying the Pythagorean theorem, and solving quadratic equations are strengths. Areas of support are multi-step contextual problems involving functions, writing an argument for the application of various geometric formulas, and applying forms and functions to real-world tasks. So in addressing these concerns, so what do we do to address these situations? One, we make these points of emphasis with our teachers. We provide professional development in these areas so teachers can improve their capacity in addressing these specific areas. And the other way that we do that, which we're implementing just this year for the first time at Westfield High School, as part of our MTSS initiative, is we gather more data that's reliable and valid. So for the first time at Westfield High School this year, we're implementing a universal screener in 9th grade in Algebra 1, which again are the standards that this test is assessing. We're Algebra 1 and English 1. So 3 times a year, students will be assessed using a universal screening tool, and then that will provide us, that's also standards aligned, that will provide us with some level of predictive measure to know exactly who's struggling on what so that we can pinpoint that. And again, it's like anything else. The earlier we can identify a need, the quicker we can address it, the more time and attention we can spend with those students, the better the outcome. So the higher the quality of the information that we gather in a strategic way, then the better the outcome because we can address it. And that's, I have to be honest with you, that's a very actionable step that we're taking at Westfield High School this year to address any student who's not meeting graduation proficiency for now and in the future. So again, intervention strategies are really about focusing on the individual, finding out who they are, where they are, what their programs are, who their teachers are, what levels of support they need, gathering that data, and then creating individualized interventions for them. Some of these students absolutely need these interventions, and some of these students will have already met another pathway and just may not have performed on this assessment. So next steps for Westfield students. Mr. Brett Curtis is already working on it over here, our new assistant principal. We just spoke today about this. We're looking at every single student, finding out exactly what pathway they need, who needs to retake the test. Our counseling director, Fallon Balasan, is already meeting with her counselors about these individual students, developing plans to address their needs, and then also making sure that we have a constant stream of data around who needs what with regard to the next step of assessment. So who scored what on the ACT if they took it, who scored what on the SAT, who needs to retake the test, who needs a portfolio. And the portfolio piece really doesn't come to fruition until about January. That's when I'll send an email or a letter to parents letting them know that we're at the point of a third pathway and here's how this is going to work. Those students who need a third pathway will meet with their counselor individually. They'll get lots of information. We'll strategically partner them with a teacher, a faculty advisor who will mentor them throughout the process of that entire portfolio. And again, for many students, it's individualized because it needs to be. And many of these students who might need this might have an individualized education plan and need the accommodations and the resources that they're provided with throughout the assessment, but they're also provided with as they complete any other pathway, whether it be the SAT or be the portfolio assessment. The next assessment that we conduct annually is the Access for ELS. This is an assessment of all of our students in our ESL program. You can just look at the numbers and it's a testament to the teachers that we hired over a year ago because we have a growing population of students in our ESL program. So this assessment is conducted in the spring. It assesses students' oral language skills, listening and speaking, literacy, and comprehension. These are students who the vast majority of them are point of entry students. This is their first time in the country. They're learning to speak the language. They get a tremendous amount of resources from our fantastic ESL teachers and supervisor. What you see in this chart, and again, so the chart just lays out the years in district of students, the students who were tested in that category of those numbers of years in the program, where they fell within the the scoring of the Access for Ls. Students must get to a 4.5 to exit the program. I pay less attention in this chart to the actual performance on the assessment than I do to the numbers of students and the years in the program. So what you see is 91 students who were tested in 0 to 2 years in the program. About 70%, well, exactly 70, about 69.7% of those students are in elementary school. They're new to our district. They're new to the United States. They're learning to speak the language. And within 2 years being in our program, you see what happens. There's far less students who are in our program for 3 and 4 years. And then students who are at 5 or more, typically there's something else going on in that situation. And again, those students are getting individualized attention and other supports. So what this graph shows is that our program's working. So next steps for our ML students. ML teachers are all over these assessments. They're sharing the data from these assessments with the classroom teachers. Our ML program works both through a pull-out program where students, especially port of entry students, are pulled out for multiple periods of the day to be provided with small group instruction, but it's also a push-in program. So some students who might require less support, ML teachers are pushing into those classrooms to support the students in the context of a social studies or a language arts class. And while they're supporting those students in the context of that class, they're also modeling instructional strategies that are best practices for working with multilingual learners with our classroom teachers. That's a really hard thing. ML teachers are specifically trained in how to work with these students, and many classroom teachers are just emerging in their understanding through professional development with our ESL staff. So one of the best ways to do that is vicarious learning, having our ML teachers come into the classroom and model instructional strategies for them. So that's the value of the push-in program. So every place that they can, our ML teachers are trying to schedule push-in opportunities with their students. They're also pushing in to meet with teams of teachers. They're going into department meetings, they're going into faculty meetings, they're going into team meetings of teachers to talk about their students and to talk about instructional strategies and best practices. And that is our NJGPA and Access for L's annual report. Does anybody have any questions?
Any questions?
Questions?
All right, we'll start. We'll just go right into this. Kent, go ahead.
Thanks. I just have a quick one. You said that Brian and Fallon are already working on it. Do the students know who they are already, or have they been told?
Yes. So yes, students. These scores come in right at the end of the school year. As soon as they come in, they're loaded into Genesis, so parents can see them,
Okay.
Students can see them, and every parent gets a letter from me. Parents have lots of questions about this. The letter has links to lots of information, but I will say that any parent of a student who did not meet graduation proficiency still has questions. And that's why I always encourage any parent, send me an email, send Fallon Balasan an email, speak to your counselor. They're well versed in this process. And the message that I give to every one of these parents is, it's going to be okay. This is one assessment, and we're going to get you through this process to ensure that your student is graduation ready. And there's multiple ways to do that.
So, Kristen, I think?
Do our MLS kids have to, or MLs, you were saying, take the test also?
Yes.
And so they're included in these
Correct.
graphs? Okay.
Yes. And some of those, again, there's cross-pollination there too. So some students who are MLs may also be special education.
Right. We don't call them out here, though, but I assume that they're just throughout the groups.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So this is a general question, not one to be like answered at the podium, but
Okay.
just kind of a thought. I'm just curious if there's, based on, I know that you call out areas of support and where you're addressing concerns, but if there are like programs or professional development or something that you've come across or your team has come across that you think would be helpful in terms of us supporting you to support our subgroups. So just something to think about, and we could talk about it in committee, but I'm just curious.
Absolutely.
Unless you have an answer. But.
No, we can definitely talk about it in SIP, but I will say the step that we're taking, which again is part of our strategic plan, goal number 1, in implementing an MTS plan, in having a structured process for collecting data in a timely way, and then working with teachers to build their capacity to respond to the needs that they're seeing in that data is already being supported by the district, and something that we're spending budgetary funds on to include these universal screening tools. So there's not only do we just layer universal screening and say, here's an assessment, we provide professional development. So on September 3rd, our first district in service, professional development is being provided to every teacher who teaches English language arts, math, special education, intervention in these universal screening tools.
Yeah, no, I get that. I guess what I'm asking is whether or not there are specific trainings or specific teaching methods that we would use to speak directly to certain subgroups, not because everything's very individualized, but whether or not there's anything that we can do to support the groups versus the individuals. You know, I don't know if there is, but I just wanted to throw it out there. If there's something we can help you with, let us know, basically.
I will also say the addition of our DEI coordinator, Anna Munoz, last year was critical. And again, she's just hitting the tip of the iceberg with building the instructional capacity of our teachers in cultural competent instruction. So that's definitely part of an initiative as well as part of the strategic plan.
I think that's what I was trying to think of, like cultural competencies. I think that's perfect. Thank you.
So noticeably, 50% of students were not graduation ready who had learning disabilities. So I saw under moving forward that IEP accommodations and, push-in services or pull-out services. But what my question is, and I don't know that you can necessarily speak to this at this moment, but
Right.
I was just thinking about it. What about if these are already classified kids and they're already in the proper placement,
Right.
getting these modifications, getting these accommodations, what else is available? What else can we think about to do for them to help facilitate growth in this area?
It's a great question. And again, I think we have to really focus on the individuals when it comes to that particular question, because it does become such an individualized situation. As you all know, the levels of disability vary
Sure. significantly.
and we have to look at each individual. All of these students are held to this standard. So absolutely, there's individualized plans, there's IEPs, there's accommodations, there's modifications that are provided even within the assessment, but I agree, sometimes that's not enough, and that's why students are offered other pathways to demonstrate understanding on these standards. But I absolutely understand your concern of what else can we do.
Right, just because, and I understand that every student demonstrates their knowledge differently, for sure. Just before we're doing an alternate pathway, I'm just thinking, are there different curriculums that can be implemented? Like, I'm not a math person, but like, different teachers have different bags of tricks and, touch math and all these different things that they know, and I know it does have to be individualized, but before we're going to a more restrictive way of measurement, just thinking about just scaffolding, what else would be my question? But there's no answer to it right now, I know that. But.
It's a big question,
Yeah.
but I agree with what you're saying. Is there something curricularly? I don't know that I would draw a curriculum concern from this data point, but I think if we see this same concern over the course of multiple years for specific cohorts of students, then we absolutely have to dive deeper into this.
Hi. First of all, congratulations to you and to everyone on some very impressive metrics. I think that we should all be really proud of across the district. It's very impressive, and it makes me proud just to see this. So, well done. My questions dovetail on Layla's, and I've got several of them. I think I'll just give them to you, and maybe you could look at it holistically because they all go towards the same
Sure.
avenue. So first of all, my first question is whether or not when you're looking at the special education column in your graph, and thank you for explaining the overlaps, does that only include classified students or does that include students with 504s as well? My second question is you mentioned that the guidance counselors are working closely on these issues, but given that there's such overlap in the disability community, are they collaborating with the child study teams, particularly with the learning resources within those child study teams? My third question, and again, it's all the same sort of thing, but they have different topics, so it's meant to get to the same point, is are there and has there been any creative discussion for these tests as it relates to accommodations for different disabilities? So a kid maybe with processing or short-term memory issues is going to be different from a kid with fine motor issues, is going to be a kid who's got attention issues, is different from a kid who's got other issues. And the classifications obviously in the IEP may help you with that, but even within those it's very, very nuanced. And then my final question goes to your guidance, because you were talking about the guidance counselors and I asked about the CST, but I know, for example, that with the other paths, the ACT, the SAT, other standardized tests, it is in fact the guidance counselors, not child study team, who ask for accommodations. So my question is it in fact also the guidance counselors that ask for specific, perhaps more creative accommodations when it comes to New Jersey standardized testing? It's a lot, sorry.
Thanks. Those are good
Sorry,
questions.
Dr. Bolton.
So a couple of things. One, just to answer the 504 question, absolutely, 504 is pulled out. You can see in our highest performing subgroup in ELA was students with 504. So that's absolutely a category. We could dive way deep into what that means, but maybe that's a conversation for SIP. CST and counselor involvement they are absolutely doing this hand in hand specifically for students with IEPs. Also, Alex Linden involvement as the supervisor coordinating that involvement with Fallon Balasan. So, and now I have to be honest, in some of the restructuring and reorganization that we've done, having our student support, directors of student support that are looking at a full 360 of child study team, special education, and intervention, that's all in their domain. I think we're going to find even greater articulation of all of those services with one person responsible for those at different levels. So there's absolutely coordination between the counseling department and special services and CST when developing those plans, and Dr. Weissman's a part of those conversations as well. Creative accommodations in terms of demonstrated need of students. So all of the accommodations are guided by the New Jersey Department of Education, and they're laid out in pretty explicit detail about the accommodations that can be provided. So there's a restriction on how creative you can get, but those decisions are also made within IEP meetings. So parents are absolutely part of that discussion with their case manager and the entire team and teachers to decide what the best accommodations are. So when we look to determine the accommodations that are provided to students with disabilities while they're taking these assessments, we really look to the IEP first and see, so what was agreed upon in the child study team meeting with the team. So if there's something that we think as an instructional team or something that families think as the parenting team, that should all become part of the child study team conversation.
That's actually super helpful. So just to clarify though, because I know it's not always on everybody's mind because there's so much that happens in an IEP
Correct.
meeting. So is it part of what the goals are for this year to make sure that the child study team of kids who are coming up into 10th grade are very focused on making sure that's part of the discussion?
I would say that's always a goal, that we should hit every detail in a child study team, and even though that may be a perfunctory part of a meeting, which I know from sitting in many child study team meetings that it just becomes the thing that might roll over from one year to the next. I think it's important for families to understand that that's something that we should look at very carefully when we're making determinations heading into another year of an IEP. No other questions?
I got a couple.
Okay.
So, first question is, you listed a number of areas of concerns, both on the math and the ELA, that, areas to improve upon. How are those comparing year over year? Are we seeing the same concerns come up? I mean, are we always having issues with functions? Are we always having issues, et cetera? Or are we seeing some improvement in stepping there?
It's definitely a good question, and they are similar. They're similar concerns because they're more challenging concepts. So when we look at, there are breakdowns that were provided by the state, which is the degrees of difficulty of a standard that's assessed throughout the assessment. Most of these areas of concern are the more challenging standards that are being assessed. So, and it's broken down actually pretty nicely in a chart that the supervisors dive into by standard and the level of complexity and the number of students that were given that particular standard on their particular form of the test. So yes, these areas of concern are obviously more challenging standards. So we have to come up with more creative and new or more refined ways to address those areas.
In year over year, are we seeing some slight improvement there? Like you had mentioned, some of these students, just on a granular basis, were just at the cusp. We were, very close.
I would
Are we
say-
seeing that getting better? I mean,
With
understanding
regard-
the challenging concepts. But
With regard to scale mean score, in terms of are we moving the curve?
yes.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this was definitely better than last year in terms of how close we are with students who may not have met graduation readiness. So that's actually a really optimistic look for us to say, okay, so we're making progress in moving the mean to the right.
Next question is the SATs, and there are other, I guess, the secondary paths to come in if this doesn't work out. How do the SAT questions and scores compare to what we're seeing from NJGPA? Are students looking at the same things, or is the state coming at this from one direction and the College Board coming at it from another direction?
It's tough to make relative comparisons. I will say, especially because there are many students that are, and we could do this in SIP too, talk about all about SAT scores and provide a whole report on SAT and AP. But it is tough to make relative comparisons between question types too, because these are focused on New Jersey standards. So it's challenging to make a one-to-one correlation. There's also a difference in the numbers of students that are taking SATs from year to year as well.
Third question was about accommodations, so Julie got that one. We've been spending a lot of budget dollars lately on, last 2 years at least, on improving technology across the district. Right? We were certainly well behind. How is we always want to make sure our dollars are well spent. So how is the additional investment in technology helped getting the multi-tiered support systems going and our tracking of this data?
I think in terms of technology, for us, it's really about the application of analytics and the software that we're using to look at the data that we're collecting. So how is that being made easier? Certainly accessibility for instruction is something that we're investing in with new technologies, but for us, in terms of investing in software programs within the technology that we already have, so using new software programs and platforms to analyze data in more depth is absolutely where we're seeing, and we're going to continue to see growth.
Great. And my last one is for the EL, for the Ls, I guess. I saw how our program is doing. It seems to be doing really, really well. How does that compare with other ELL programs across the state? Are we seeing, is our move on and move up rate, comparatively better, about the same? How does that work?
Yeah, I can tell you, I haven't done those comparisons, but I can tell you in terms of the vast majority of districts in the state are seeing an increase in their multilingual population. So again, an increase in a population becomes a more complex problem. So, which requires additional resources in additional capacity building, because again, when you look at our ESL program, students might spend 2 periods in a pull-out support type of program with an ESL teacher. Then they have 6 other periods of the day where they're in a general education classroom, where the primary language being spoken is English. So there has to be a tremendous amount of professional learning on the part of those mainstream teachers to support those students. So again, and the more students, the more diverse the language is, it becomes a more complex problem.
Thank you. You got one more? Sure. We almost had you out of there.
Sorry, I just wanted to dovetail on something Rob mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, which is that the first SPED meeting is coming up on, did you say September 2nd or 10th? That maybe it might be a good add to the agenda to talk about this. I mean, obviously, you don't need to give the whole presentation, but I think that maybe mentioning that to that group of parents would probably be of great interest.
Sure. Was the 10th.
Dr. Weissman is happy to add that to the agenda.
All right. Thanks very much for the report.
All right. Thank
Much
you.
appreciated. Any further reports from district administration? Excellent. All right. On to the next. So realizing this is our first meeting from the summer, I'm going to go through board committee reports. I realize there might not be a lot here, but I want to give everybody a shot to talk if they have it. So first is report by Curriculum Instruction and Assessment Committee. We redid our committees with the change in the school year and the new election. So this year's SIP chairs are going to be Sonal and Kristen. I don't know if there's any report at this point.
Not really. We haven't met since June. Sonal and I are going to meet with Dr. Bolton on Thursday to review the plan for the year, and then our first scheduled full committee meeting is on Monday, September 9th.
Next is Finance and Facilities. We're keeping those chairs consistent with Kent and Brendan.
We also haven't met since June, although we are meeting on Friday to view some work done at Roosevelt, and if we have time, we'll tour some of the other buildings in the district.
Excellent. Next is Policy, Personnel, and Governance. That's going to be Layla and Mary. Layla, you're solo today.
Samesies. We haven't met over the summer. We are working on getting our schedule of meetings together and looking forward to diving in.
Excellent. Obviously, probably not too many questions on those reports. So we'll next move to the public portion of the meeting. During this portion of the meeting, district residents and staff are invited to address the Board of Education on agenda action items only. There will be a second public comment where residents and members of the public will be able to address the board on any item. In accordance with the hearing requirement set forth in NJSA 18A:11-11, the public is also invited to comment on the approval of the employment contract with Dr. Raymond Gonzalez. As a courtesy, allow current students and staff of Westfield Public Schools to speak first. The board requests that individuals sign in and state their name, municipality of residence, and group affiliation if applicable for the record, the specific action items they're commenting on, and asks that all remarks be directed to the board president or designee, not to individual members or staff. The board asks that members of the public be courteous and mindful of the rights of other individuals when speaking. Specifically, comments regarding personnel matters are discouraged and cannot be responded to by the board, with the exception of what we talked about before. Students and employees have specific legal rights afforded by the laws of New Jersey. The board bears no responsibility, nor will it be liable for any comments made by members of the public. If a matter concerning a district staff member is of interest or concern to a resident, the matter should be referred to the responsible building principal, superintendent of schools, or the Board of Education, either by telephone, letter, or email. Although the board may not respond to items raised during the public forum, all public comments will be considered. Please note that if any member of the public becomes disruptive during the meeting, the board president may terminate that participant's statement. Continued disruptions may result in removal from the meeting or adjournment of the meeting. Each speaker's statement will be limited to 3 minutes in duration. If you need a hand with sign-ins, Mary Ann will be there to help out. Okay, seeing none, I will close the first public comment. Again, there'll be a second opportunity for that later in the meeting. Now on to board action items. First, we'll start with the minutes. I'd like to make a motion to approve the June 25th, 2024 regular board meeting and executive session minutes, as well as the August 20th, 2024 special board meeting and executive session minutes. Do I have a second, please? Second for Layla. We can do this, I think, by voice vote. All in favor? All right. Any opposed?
I wasn't at the August 20th.
Okay. So, and one abstention then for that.
I, too, will abstain from August 20th.
So 2 abstentions on August 20th. Moving on, Sonal, would you move the governance action items, please?
Okay, I'd like to move item A under governance to approve the following resolution. Whereas on August 20th, 2024, the Board of Education received a report from the superintendent containing the results of investigations conducted by each school regarding alleged incidents of harassment, intimidation, and bullying. And whereas states the NJSA 18A 3715B 6C states the report also includes information on services provided, training established, discipline imposed, or other action taken or recommended by the superintendent. And whereas the board has considered the report presented by the superintendent, now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Education affirms that the findings of the investigation and the actions comply with the district's HIB policies and procedures for the following HIB incidents. Can I have a second? Thank you, Kent.
No discussion? We go to a vote, please?
Rob Bonaccio,
Yes.
Ken Diamond,
Yes.
Brendan Galligan,
Yes.
Charles Delinas,
Abstain.
Layla Morelli,
Yes.
Sonal Patel,
Yes.
Kristen Sonic-Schmeltz,
Yes.
Julie Steinberg,
Abstain.
Mary Wickens.
Next, we'll move to the personnel items for the agenda. Leila?
The following items relative to personnel are recommended by the Board of Education by the Superintendent of Schools in accordance with Policy 3125 and state guidelines pending school employee criminal history review. Tonight, we're moving items A through, is that 11 or A through 2? Double L, oh. I'd just like to point out that item A is to improve the employment contract for Superintendent Dr. Raymond Gonzalez through 6/30/29 upon notice of public hearing as required by NJSA 18A 1111 as approved by the Union County Executive Superintendent of Schools on 8/27/24. So I'd like to move items A through double L under personnel. Do I have a second?
Second.
Sonal? And then Dr. Gonzalez, do we vote first or do you make comments first on any?
It is double I, not double L.
Double I.
Indeed. So
I was not prepared to present this section tonight.
Yeah, so with that correction, any discussion on personnel items? Sonal?
Yeah, I'd like to express my full support for the renegotiation of Dr. Gonzalez's contract. Given the significant changes our district needs to evolve over the next few years, including curriculum updates, budget constraints, and a referendum for full-day kindergarten, it's essential to evaluate the superintendent's performance and ensure that his compensation aligns with the evolving needs of our community. By renegotiating the contract, we can clarify expectations and make a commitment in our relationship with him and his educational leadership. So thank you, Dr. Gonzalez, for all you've done for our district and for continued success in moving us forward.
I'm going to add to that. So we decided, it was largely a mutual decision to revisit Dr. Gonzalez's contract, and one of the main reasons for that is because of all that we have going on in our district coming up. Dr. Gonzalez spent a lot of time in his report talking about all the different things that have just been going on over the summer. And these are things that are happening through the regular budget process and through some capital, just some basic capital reserves. But we have a larger referendum coming up in our district. There has been a lot of changes already that have set our district, just steps ahead, really leaps ahead from where we were just a few years ago when we started. And before we start asking the public to come along on the ride with us and make sure that, and support the referendum and support the different things that we're doing, we all thought it was very important to show that same support toward the person who we're tasking to lead that going forward. And it was certainly, it was a very easy negotiation. I mean, Dr. Gonzalez, I can tell you, is as committed to this district as we were to keeping him here. There was, some exceeding positives about having this contract squared away now. It brings the district the level of cost certainty. And I can tell you that Dr. Gonzalez in negotiating was very conscious of where the district is going. of his desire to make this district, really the best it can be, but also understand that, the district is going to be asking for a lot of financial commitments to make sure that we weren't overstating that. So I'm very, very happy to support this, and very happy that we can get some stability on our leadership for the next 5 years. And with that,
Rob Bonaccio,
yes.
Kent Diamond,
Yes.
Brendan Galligan,
Yes.
Charles Jelinas,
Yes.
Layla Morelli,
Yes.
Sonal Patel,
Yes.
Kristen Sonic-Schmeltz,
Yes.
Julie Steinberg,
For items B onward, yes. For item A, I am choosing to abstain.
okay, and Mary Wickens, absent.
Okay. Oh, that's right. Go ahead, I'll turn it over to Dr. Gonzalez. I know we have someone who's also just approved today.
Yeah, so I first want to just thank the Board of Education for their support in entertaining the opportunity to renegotiate a contract and recommit our work together. I recognize that a lot has taken place over the last 3 years, really to set us up for an amazing 5 years ahead. And I wanted to be sure that the district was aware of my commitment, hence the reason why I sought to renegotiate for a new contract. With that in mind, I am motivated to continue the hard work that brought us to where we are today, and excited by the prospect of what's ahead. So again, I thank everyone for their vote of confidence. Moving forward, I would like to also use this opportunity to officially welcome Brett Curtis, the newest member of the administrative leadership team of the district and Westfield High School. Brett is joining us as a member of our teaching ranks, and has demonstrated his desire to pursue leadership in this district. I've had the opportunity to sit with Brett and really learn firsthand what possible opportunities that he sees available to him in his future, and seeing that alignment in our opportunities here was certainly a match made in heaven. So I'm grateful to see Brett join our ranks, excited to see the work that he is going to undergo, and certainly working with Ms. Spring and Ms. Hun, as well as Mrs. Fendis. I think Brett will be an amazing member of the leadership team. So at this time, I'd like to invite Brett to the podium to share a few words.
Good evening, and I'd first like to express my sincerest gratitude to the Board of Education, to Dr. Gonzalez, and to Principal Fendis for providing me with this incredible opportunity to join the leadership team at Westfield High School. I've dedicated my entire professional career to the Westfield Public School District as a social studies teacher and as a basketball coach for the last 11 years. Throughout this time, I've always prioritized students' needs, not only fostering a deep understanding of the curriculum, but cultivating essential life skills to help them succeed both academically and beyond Westfield High School. I'm excited to bring the same passion for student development that I had as a teacher to the role of assistant principal. In this position, I'm eager to work with students in various capacities, both inside and outside the classroom, with the goal of making their experience at Westfield High School both meaningful and memorable, while also equipping them with the skills necessary for success beyond graduation. So just kind of piggybacking off a little bit on what Dr. Gonzalez said, my educational philosophy is very much aligned with the pathway that the district is on in the 5-year strategic plan. And I look forward to collaborating with the leadership team through the district level and at the high school, and with the staff at the high school to put that into place and continue the progress that we've made over the past couple of years that I've seen firsthand from the classroom experience, but obviously excited to move into the administrative piece of it. Since the beginning of my career in Westfield, I'm not from here, I didn't grow up here, so I was immediately impressed by the dedication this town has to educating their children, but also from a teacher's perspective, the motivation that the students have to excel, and just the want to learn was something that had always stuck with me, and is still here. It's still something that I have today. And that perspective remains unchanged, and I'm confident that I'm at the ideal stage in my career, and that we have the right team in place at the high school. I'm really looking forward to working with the team there to leverage the positive aspects of the Westfield community to enhance student outcomes. While I have been planning and preparing in the building since early August, I can't wait for next week to get started with the staff and in particularly with the kids. So I'm looking really forward to getting started in the capacity when we open the doors to students on September 5th. So once again, I appreciate the opportunity. I'm excited and eager to get started and work to continue the progress within the district as a whole and obviously within Westfield High School. Thank you.
Thanks very much, and again, welcome on behalf of the board. Next, we'll move to the finance and facilities portion of the agenda. Kent?
Thank you. I'd like to move items A through S, and before I ask for a second, we're starting the year off with a bang with a total of $255,000 worth of donations. I have 9 call-outs I'd like to do. Hang on, no, I'm sorry. I read the wrong thing, didn't I? One moment, please. I'm still on summer break. There's no, is it?
Huh? You didn't pull it up?
No, I'm
the
looking for it.
different donations? Hold on.
Thank you. One of those days. Thank you. There we are. I was looking at the wrong thing. McKinley School PTO, $400 to purchase water for the staff room at McKinley. Lincoln School PTO, $1,437 to purchase items for behavioral support for Lincoln students. Washington School PTO, $2,023.75 to purchase Scholastic News and Time for Kids periodicals for Washington students. Next is Westfield School Boosters Association donating $4,599 to purchase a frame shed for the Westfield High School field hockey team. Washington School PTO donated $4,780.59 to purchase extra picnic tables for Washington, 4 portable and 2 are permanent. Franklin School PTO donated $141,205.69 to purchase equipment and floor surfacing for Franklin's playground. Jefferson School PTO donated $99,460.67 to purchase and install new equipment for the Jefferson playground. Next, we have the Union County Board of County Commissioners donating $600 for a STEM educational grant to fund upgrades to the Jefferson greenhouse. And last but not least, the Westfield Coalition for the Arts donated $494.10 to purchase a music rug for Jefferson. Thank you to all those who have donated. And may I have a second, please? Kristen, thank you. Any comments, questions, thoughts? Bueller.
Rob Bonaccio,
Yes.
Kent Diamond,
Yes.
Brendan Galligan,
Yes.
Charles Gelinas,
Yes.
Leila Morelli,
Yes.
Sonal Patel,
Yes.
Kristen Sonic-Schmelz,
Yes.
Julie Steinberg,
Yes to all but item M, from which I will abstain.
and Mary Wickens.
Okay, next we'll move to the curriculum instruction and assessment portion. Kristen?
Yep. Sorry, I just have to pull it up. I have it, and I meant what I was gonna. Okay, I make a motion to ask the board to consider action item A under SIP. It's asking the board to approve 2 student interns, one for the health office and one in elementary guidance counseling. Can I get a second? Thank you. Sonal, any questions?
All
Rob
right.
Bonaccio,
Yes.
Kent Diamond,
Yes.
Brendan Galligan,
Yes.
Charles Gelinas,
Yes.
Leila Morelli,
Yes.
Sonal Patel,
Yes.
Kristen Sonic-Schmelz,
Yes.
Julie Steinberg,
Yes.
Mary Wickens.
I'll next call the board's attention to any notes for the record. Any unfinished business? New business? Liaison reports? Okay, with that done, we'll move to the second public comment session. I don't get to say samesies, so I gotta read the whole thing again. During this portion of the meeting, members of the public are invited to address the Board of Education on any topic. As a courtesy, allow current students and staff of Westfield Public Schools to speak first. The board requests that individuals sign in and state their name, municipality of residence, and group affiliation if applicable for the record, and asks that all remarks be directed to the board president or designee, not to individual board members or staff. The board asks that members of the public be courteous and mindful of the rights of other individuals when speaking. Specifically, comments regarding personnel matters are discouraged and cannot be responded to by the board. Students and employees have specific legal rights afforded by the laws of New Jersey. The board bears no responsibility, nor will it be liable for any comments made by members of the public. If a matter concerning a district staff member is of interest or concern to a resident, the matter should be referred to the responsible building principal, superintendent of schools, or the Board of Education, either by telephone, letter, or email. Although the board may not respond to items raised during the public forum, all public comments will be considered. Please note that if any member of the public becomes disruptive during the meeting, the board president may terminate the participant's statement. Continued disruptions may result in removal from the meeting or adjournment of the meeting. Each speaker's statement will be limited to 3 minutes in duration.
Good evening, Violetta Watson. Are we still doing addresses? No? Okay. Hi, thank you for your time tonight, as always. I wanted to address something. I know special ed was discussed a lot tonight, but I wanted to address something pertaining to special ed. I understand that the Board of Ed has board member liaisons, and I just heard a call to liaisons for any updates they might have. In the Board of Ed handbook, it says that Board of Ed education members may be assigned as liaisons to PTOs and other community-based organizations. The board values these relationships as a critical component of our communication with parents and the community. I also understand that current liaison assignments include school PTOs, Union County SBA and JSBA Delegate Assembly, Westfield Rec Commission, and the PTC. And it came to my attention recently that the Special Education Committee used to have a liaison, but no longer does. And I just wanted to, I should say, I'm the co-chair of the Special Education Committee. I do understand that it's a parent advisory group mandated by the state, and under statute, each district board of ed shall ensure that a special education parent advisory group is in place in the school district to provide input to the school district on issues concerning students with disabilities. I also looked into some other districts. It's hard to really figure it out, but I saw that, for instance, Princeton has a special ed liaison for their parent advisory group. So I was surprised to learn that we no longer have one. I'd like to understand better why that is and why that decision was made. and just kind of go on the record to say that I do think it's valuable to maintain that kind of position so that there's a direct line of communication between members of the board and someone representing the parents, right? And for instance, the back to school night on September 10th, it'd be great if board members, or at least a board member, would attend to hear some parent concerns that might be raised. So I encourage you all to attend our events. We'll make it a priority to attend the board meetings more often when we can, or send a representative. We're growing our SPED committee, and we hope that we communicate better.
Okay. I don't think there's anyone else, so we'll close public comment. I don't know if you want to address that or not. I actually would. So we've been back and forth on this. I just, full disclosure, so Violetta and her co-chair Jen and I were on a half-hour call about 2 weeks ago, and I know it was an email exchange even today, just helping to understand how the communication between the SPED committee and the board is going to work. So with respect to the liaison was in place a few years ago. I think it was largely a function of COVID requiring some of that. The law that establishes the special education department, or this parent committee, requires that there be a direct contact between special education parents groups and our special education assistant superintendent, who's Mick Weissman. For that reason, it's actually one of the only committees, I think, that actually has that level of direct contact with any member of the administration. So having a board member as a liaison, is not something that we want to interrupt, right? They have the direct contact between the parent and the administration. A board member may actually do more to confuse that and potentially frustrate the purpose of the law than it will necessarily to enhance it. SPED is also part of the Parent-Teacher Council, the PTC, and the PTC does have a liaison. So, as mentioned, the PTC liaison can also act as the liaison to the SPED committee. We did talk about ways to expand SPED's outreach to the board. I certainly encouraged the SPED committee to send the board, not just about the 10th, but SPED very positively hosts meetings, I think it's just about every month, for parents in different locations, sometimes at different times too. So I'm hopeful that the board will get the whole schedule of your meetings so that we can all attend as well. And then finally, special education when it comes to policy and curricular and programmatic aspects is covered by the Curriculum Instruction Assessment Committee, which Dr. Weissman is a part of. Which I'm a part of, which Julie's a part of, which Somel's a part of, and which Kristen, who happens to be the PTC chair, is part of. So, while I understand the interest there, I think there's actually about 3 or 4 different ways that SPED has to communicate, both direct communication to administrators and through the board, that I think should cover it. Obviously, we'll keep an open mind to things. If for some reason the communication flow is not working, we're happy to change it when we can. But I want to make sure the public understands there's a lot of different tendrils of communication going on, which makes me happy, quite frankly. I know I went, just shortly after I was elected board president, one of the first things I did was attend the end of year social, because I do think it's very, very important that we all, realize we're all in this together, is best the way to put it. So thank you for coming up and talking and keeping this top of mind.
Can I just say a word as well? Just to correct, the liaison was actually in place when I moved here, which I think was in 2012, and I was very active in the committee then. So it went back, it existed for at least 8 years, and my understanding is prior to Dr. Weissman being here, the liaison also existed. So a good decade. It stopped during COVID, and a lot of things stopped during COVID, but that doesn't mean that's not the, I just want to make sure that we're clear that this was a long-standing liaison that existed. I also want to talk about the fact that while these parents and teachers, I might add, who come to these meetings, and staff members who come from these meetings, and even people come from out of different towns because our SPED is that good. There is not a direct way for them to contact the administration, largely because Dr. Weissman, who is an excellent administrator and always has his door open, does not have any purview over 504s, which comprise a significant number of students with disabilities. And so subsequently, the people who manage their cases are not part of Dr. Weissman's purview. And I'd finally like to say that as a parent of a child with a disability, and watching how important that liaison was when I was active in the committee, I think that it's really important that we look and see whether or not there is a really good reason not to do this, because there are people, not just myself on this board, who are willing to take on the role. There is not a clear line of communication, though it would be nice, but unfortunately that's bigger than the district. That has to do with the different laws that govern special education. And I think that it's really hard already being a parent with a child with a disability. The last thing we should be doing is taking away any of their lines of communication. We should be enforcing them. We should be supplementing them. We should be doing everything we can to make sure that they feel that their voices are being heard and that they have multiple lines, because they already have enough problems. We have the opportunity here to think about that, and I would ask that you consider that counterpoint to this conversation.
Yeah, I'd just like to clarify, 504s fall under Dr. Weissman's purview.
I'm sorry, the
So-
principals and the guidance counselors who govern the 504s do not report to Dr. Weissman. Dr. Weissman does not have
Okay,
metrics on 504s.
we're not going to
et cetera.
debate here. Let's move on. I'd like to move the board into executive session. Ask to approve the following resolution. Be it resolved that the Board of Education move into private session for the purpose of discussing matters rendered confidential by state and federal law, including harassment, intimidation, and bullying incidents. And be it further resolved that any discussion held by the board, which need not remain confidential, and the results of the discussion will be made public as soon as practicable. The board will not return from this private session. I have a second?
Second.
Brendan? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.